Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Today I'm going to talk about the fiction project, which is actually doubling now as your fiction exam. So what used to be a 100-point project for fiction is now both your fiction project and the exam 200 points possible. This document is available for download in several places. Again, it's an announcement and it's an assignment. And after today, it will be in discussion board with this lecture that's linked. I want to just add some clarity. Some of you are confused still about where things are and why I am doing it the way I'm doing it. So I want to differentiate between two categories of work. First is homework. Your major homework is the fiction project and your chapter highlights. And those due dates are up and running. The assignments are up and running, and you post them through Canvas through a normal online submission. For the purpose of classwork and participation, you are watching these videos and posting appropriate answers to the questions I ask about the videos. That is in the discussion board. Now there's also going to be open discussion possibilities in that as this progresses, I will have a Let's Talk link. It is both in the assignment category and in discussion board, and that is for conversation, not for a grade. Okay, that's if you're doing this and you run into a question and you're stumped, you can post your question. Everybody has the ability to look at your question and look at my response to help you along through the process. Very lastly, the readings. The readings are just like the lectures. They count for in-class participation and class activity. They're posted under the assignment section. And when you click on a story, you will read the document. You can download the document. Some of them are in your book, and there are questions attached to those stories. The questions that you upload are not for grades. Those responses are graded as done, not done, and they count toward your class participation and your class attendance. I am not doing Zoom Live. I am doing pre-recorded lectures so that you can watch them over and over again, watch them at your convenience within the week. Not at a specific time frame. And so it's really important to understand that we have homework and we have in-class time in classwork. They are not the same thing, and I am grading them differently. In order to remain A eligible, you have to do all. Okay, so now to the fiction plot line and exposition project. So all of you have this for download, and what I recommend is to download and print a hard copy. This first hard copy, as you're reading the story, you can write notes. Before you submit it, then you'll take the digital one and you'll fill it out and you'll upload the digital form. When you do the final project, I don't want the lines. What I would love to see is spaces or bold and not bold, but don't type on the lines, right? Leave the question and then type out your answer with citation and the appropriate page number. So the first thing is your story name. I'm hoping by the end of this week you have a story chosen. Spring break starts this Friday, and we're honoring spring break, but because of the nature of now online courses, just like with anything, you would have assignments over spring break, and so I'm just going to maintain our timeline as such so that April is not interrupted in terms of instruction. You need to choose one story within your book using specific words, details, symbols, and appropriate literary terminology. Please discuss, explain, dissect, identify, connect, and reflect upon each of the following. You're going to pick a story and read it 25 times. You look at a question, you read the story for that question. You go to the next question, you read the story again. You go to the next question, you're going to read the story again. I do not want you trying to answer all of these questions with one read. The reason you have only this assignment and a whole month to do it is because this is a complex, in-depth analysis. You're doing close reading for very specific purposes. Every time we dissect a story, for example, tomorrow I'm going to post, or tonight I'm going to post the upload for Silent Town. That story, we're going to look at plot structure and imagery. Now, if you're doing this in the most advantageous way, you're going to have your story. So once we do Silent Town together and I show you how to dissect those kinds of imagery and plot structure, it's going to be really important to use that skill set immediately with your fiction project. Okay, so Silent Town, we're going to look at imagery. In your fiction project, on the back of the 3rd page, the question specifically says, within the body of the text, to include rising and falling action, list at least 2 examples of each of the kinds of imagery, sensory detail, as they appear in the text. Hopefully you watched the fiction packed lectures, which are now also on YouTube if Zoom doesn't work. In that lecture, I talk specifically about the different kinds of imagery, and then we're going to practice and use that knowledge to dissect Silent Town together. Then you will practice and use that knowledge doing your fiction project by yourself. The question says, what about it should respond to the question, why are these details important? What do they create? What are the moments that they foreshadow? Do they create flashback, tone, suspense, characterization? Do they become symbolically important? Quote and give page number citation. Now, if you come across a kind of imagery, for example, that does not appear in your book, maybe there's no thermal imagery, right? No reference to temperature or to the results of temperature. Then I want you to pick a passage from the story and show how it could have been imagery of thermal dynamics. Because if you can show me why it's not thermal imagery, that also shows that you understand the concept. Back to the 1st page. It says, it doesn't say, so let me say, if you decide to do a short story that is not in your textbook, that is fine. But when you attach and submit your final project, your fiction project, you're going to have to attach that story with it so that I have the story to reference. I don't know every story in the universe by heart. So if you use the book, you only need to give me the questions and answers. If you pick a story outside of the book, you're going to have to give me the story as well. First question, is this a stranger comes to town or a hero's journey tale? Use details in the story to prove the point. And again, this is directly related to the lecture I uploaded yesterday about the fiction project. What is the message of the text? This also has to do with theme, also discussed in the fiction pack lecture. What is the singular academic question you would ask if answered thoughtfully that could point toward the conclusion of this message? When I do the lecture and dissection of Hills Like White Elephants, we're going to actually look at a sample of this fiction project, how you come up with the theme and how you answer questions that would point others to the theme. So I'm going to model this as we go along. Each one of the questions within this are going to be modeled by the stories and samples we look at. And so that's why these lectures matter a lot. So again, the very first story lecture that I'm going to upload is called Silent Town. It's by Ray Bradbury. I'm going to use it to teach you 2 things, how to identify the different kinds of imagery and how to dissect and understand the plot structure. The corresponding questions in here are going to be, what kind of plot structure is it? What are the plot components? Where does exposition end? Where does rising action start? What are the different scenes? What are the different conflicts? And then, of course, about the imagery, 2 kinds of each example of imagery. So we're going to practice that skill in the next video, Silent Town. Have a great day.